7 reasons the rich don't pay taxes. Do you know the history of taxes? There was a time that there was no tax. But gradually, it became the norm. At first, taxes were imposed on people in times of war to aid the defense. But governments fell in love with the idea and made it permanent. Taxes are not a bad thing. It is a token given to the government to run an organized society. It becomes a bad thing when those in government have selfish interests. However, taxes can become overbearing for the people. Some believe that governments can afford to stop taking taxes. The idea is that they get to own all the natural resources discovered in a country. And they have the capacity to develop income-generating industries. But most countries can't stop taking taxes because of their control of monetary policy. Taxes have also been a tool to fool naive people. When governments want to raise taxes, they always begin by saying that the taxes are for the rich. Nobody ever admits that it is the poor and working class that will pay it. So when this "tax the rich" idea is sold to the people, they support it. But when the legislation is being drafted, the rich use their connections to include some loopholes. A year or two after the law is passed, the government discovers that all the rich people targeted have already dodged the legislation and it is no longer bringing in money. Therefore, they extend it to regular workers. The problem is that regular workers cannot dodge it like the rich. And thus they become the perpetual taxpayers. The rich don't pay taxes. And the reason is that they can afford not to. Every attempt by any government to tax the rich always ends up throwing the working class under the bus. It could only take some time. Not paying taxes is a matter of negotiation. Do the rich need the government or the government needs the rich? The government needs the rich. The rich don't need the government. The rich have other options as there are other countries. But a government that frustrates the rich will descend into the abyss with time. Here are 7 reasons the rich don't pay taxes. 1. The rich don't get paid. Regular working class people get paid wages, salary, income, etc. The rich don't get paid anything like that. Whenever you hear things like income taxes, just know that it is not touching the rich. Check what the salary of Warren Buffett is. Then check the salary of Larry Ellison. Then check that of Jeff Bezos. They run public companies, so their salary information is public. Just check Google. Can you see it? Just think about that. Larry's basic salary is $1. How can that be taxed? All regular people have as their income. The rich can afford to make their salary as low as they want to because they really don't need it. So, income tax never gets to the rich. Their income is just a buffer. It is always a modest amount. Rich people in the spotlight often have some sort of amount as income just so that they can pay taxes to attract goodwill. But the unknown ones are not under such pressure. Many of them have zero as salary. So, how do they do it? You'll know soon. 2. The rich are encouraged to keep their money in the system. When you have $1 billion, the government is more particular about making you keep your $1 billion in the economy than to take some $250 million from you. There are less than 3,000 billionaires in the world. They can move their money into any system they want to. If the rich move their money, the economy will feel it. And the government will be left to deal with the situation that grows from it. So, instead of the government taking a small percentage off the wealth of the rich, they encourage them to keep the 100% in the system. And this means to incentivize them to make that decision. And that means a tax loophole. It is a simple system. You keep 100% of your money in the system, we take nothing. And the rich happily oblige to this. 3. The rich take some pressure off the government. There are activities that rich people get involved in for the good of the society that is supposed to be the work of the government. However, because the government is often overwhelmed with a lot of things get no attention. A rich person who attends to such matters deserves some reward. In many countries, the rich can take up social responsibility and because of that skip taxes. In some cases, their taxes are reduced. In other cases, they can completely avoid paying taxes. This depends on the magnitude of social responsibility they have taken up. This is also a win-win for the rich. In many cases, the amount they spend on these social responsibilities is as much as the taxes they would have paid. But they have control over the money when they use it directly instead of handing it to the government. Also, social responsibility gives them goodwill among the people making their next ambitious project easily accepted by society. The rich can also kill two birds with one stone, as their social responsibility can be tied to their business interest by a collateral impact. An example is a rich man in an African country who runs a business that heavily relies on road transport deciding to fix the roads on behalf of the government. And yes, he got a tax reduction based on that. 4. The rich pay the middle class. Those that really feel the impact of taxes are middle-class workers. And this is also leverage for the rich. The incomes the middle class have is provided by the rich. The rich have the platforms, companies, corporations that provide the middle class with income. This means that if the government hurts the rich, they will probably have no middle class to fall back on. In most developed countries, a larger percentage of taxes are paid by companies and corporations. And these are institutions owned by the rich. And those are the ones that pay the middle class. In fact, they help the government in collecting taxes from the middle class. The rich are basically partners with the government concerning the collection of taxes. If a middle-class worker tries to evade taxes, the company gives all the access to the government to make them get such a worker. It is a mutually beneficial relationship. It is only fair that the government cut the rich some slack. 5. The rich have options. Whenever you hear people say that they are going to make the rich pay more taxes, just know that you are talking to a novice in the game. First, you need to understand that the rich have no allegiance to any country. When you have hundreds of millions of dollars, virtually every country is open to you as long as you are not a criminal. If a country says they are going to frustrate the rich in their country, the rich will simply move their money elsewhere. This is why there are Swiss banks in places like the Cayman Islands. After all, the money belongs to them and not the government. The rich have options. They can put their money anywhere they want to. Countries have to show a compelling reason for the rich to keep their money with them. Yes, it is not so easy to take money out of a country, especially when a lot of investment has been made in that country. But if it comes to that point, the rich will still pull it off. And if you say the government should make a rule that the rich cannot move their money from one country to another, that is the beginning of a totalitarian regime. It is infringing on freedom. Hence, before that law gets passed, the money will start to move out in droves. Hence, the government can only make deals with the rich to keep their money in the system. In some cases, the investment the rich have is so much that to move it is a big headache. That makes them do the next point. 6. The rich finance political candidates. To ensure that their interests are protected, the rich finance political candidates. Not that they bribe them with money to support their views. Instead, they look for people who naturally support their views and finance them as much as they can. There have been several cases in history where the rich overturn political elections. This is especially when there is a candidate threatening to destroy the business they've spent their entire life building. They will fight with as much money as they can muster. And in many cases, they eventually have their way. So, by supporting politicians that understand and support their interests, the rich avoid being targeted by the government. But sometimes, the government grows to have its own establishment that is more dangerous than the rich. The establishment is not the rich, instead, they are those who feed on the government. They are not business owners or business leaders like the rich. And they sometimes maneuver the people to fight the rich. 7. The rich are not individuals. The rich are not recognized by the tax system as individuals. This is why they have no income. And this is why they pay zero taxes. How do they do it? This is a simplified explanation to make you understand. If a rich man has a company that generates revenue, he will not register himself as an employee of that company like everybody else. Every convenience of his will be part of company expenses. He positions himself to be an asset to the company. So, when the company is taxed, that is all the taxes he will pay. He is not an individual, he is an asset of the company. Most taxes are taken from the company will be on the profits. And the profit is revenue minus expenses. Since the rich already enjoy all they want from life out of the company expenses, the tax on their profit will only affect the future of their business and not their own lifestyle. And of course, the government wants their companies to keep prospering. There are taxes that are paid before profit is calculated. But the major taxes are after profits. And the living expenses of the rich is already deducted from the revenue before the profit is calculated. This is considered fair because the rich are indeed a living asset to their companies. They are not individuals. These are some of the ideas and fundamentals behind the rich not paying taxes. You could get angry about it, but that won't change anything. Or you can take some bits from it and use it to make your life easier. The specific rule of each tax loophole varies depending on the country. Speak to a certified tax attorney before making any move of your own.